huge update for the CT.JS update, game engine. We have visual scripting finally. After 2 years pretty much, I've been trying to follow this sort of development pipeline. There's been ideas about visual scripting for CT.JS for a while in like forums, I forget where. So very interesting, this is finally out. Let's make a new project in the new section here of the CT.JS. This is the nightly build, by the way, I forgot to mention. It's not available in the main branch. This is still in experimental phase. You can select obviously project folder. We have the language coffee script, which is actually going to be replaced in the distant future with a different language, which is just a simplified version of JavaScript. And JavaScript is what is used in C.JS primarily, a simplified JavaScript language. And Catnip is essentially just a block version of JavaScript, and all the code is converted into JavaScript afterwards. So if you know how to use JavaScript inside of C.JS, you're halfway there. Let's create some new assets. So a new one, you can see we have the ability to use the built-in gallery. We have a bunch of assets there. Let's just make some simple placeholder assets. I'm going to make one sort of a longer width, maybe 500 width rectangle here. Set the filter to none. We don't want any text. Set the color to be maybe sort of a black. Just leave it black. Or no, we'll just set it to red. I like red. Or dark broody red. Let's set this to be our floor or platform, whatever you want to call it. Create and add another one. So let's create a new one. No, not texture, my bad. We want to go to placeholder texture. Let's set this to be a round circle and set this to be us. We can call it the player. This is what we'll control. Set it to be none and change the color to be a, my mouse is bugging out, to be white, fully white. And we're going to be able to change the tint and all that when it's white, whereas if it's already got a color, it's not going to work. It's like painting a house. You got to add white paint first before you can choose whatever paint you want. Let's set the collision object to the center of the image to be the center, the collision shape to be circle. Apply that, same for the floor, set the origin of the image to be in the middle. If you don't do this, then it's going to be pivoted around, obviously the top left hand side corner, or the collision shape isn't going to be great. So once you got that, you can create a new texture from it. And by right clicking and creating a new template from it, I said texture, I meant template, it allows you to create an object that isn't a texture, but in fact is a template that you can add into your world. So let's create a new world, a room. Let's grab that, new room. Okay, we have a new room here, and over here we have the two templates. These are different from the textures. Textures are just images. You can't place just images in the world. They need to be game objects essentially. So let's add in our circle in the middle-ish of our thing, and down here our ground. We can actually go to the selection item up here. We can actually just grab both and move them up a little bit so they're more centered. And there we go. We can apply this, and now we have a basic scene that we can launch, and we haven't even got into visual scripting yet. So let's go and do that. Let's click on our player and we can open up and see we have a brand new visual scripting nodes. What we're going to do is create a very simple sort of movement setup. So let's go ahead. You can see here on the on events, which gives us a bunch of different events, like on update, which is the current one, frame start, which means every single frame at the start of the frame, and we also have a frame end, which is one we're going to use now, which is every single frame when the frame ends. You'd use the frame start to do like calculations and stuff like that. You use the frame end typically to do UI type stuff, like drawing stuff on screen like scores or custom mouse cursors, stuff of that nature. So what we're going to do is similar to a custom mouse cursor. We're going to allow our mouse to control this player object. So you can see down here we have a bunch of different categories. You can click on them to jump to those categories. In the movement, we want to change the movement of our object, obviously, so we're going to set the X and Y to, and then pixels, it's blank. So what we're going to do is, you can see we have a bunch of different green boxes that fit in here, X, Y, but these are X, Y of the object. We want X, Y of our cursor. Let's go all the way down to our pointer category. And here you can see we have our pointer X, our pointer UI X. So let's grab that, the UI of the pointer. Well, the pointer is essentially the same thing, but the UI is the one we really want. It could work with pointer just normal as well. But let's go to the UI for extra measure. And there we go. Now we have our new mouse, but the mouse actually is still visible. I don't really want the mouse to be visible. So let's go ahead to our project. Let's go down to the cat mods, and you can see in the cat mods here, I'm just doing a detour. The cat mods here, we have pointer, for example, which is what we saw down here, pointer. And we also have place. So all these different cat mods, they come with all the brand new nodes, so you can control them really easily. For example, let's go ahead and grab the matter.js library, which is essentially physics. You can apply 2D physics to your game, and now go back, and you see we have obviously, because it's a bit heavier, a collision group physics, enable physics. You got all the standard physics properties and physics constraints, but also if you scroll down a little bit more, we have the matter category of our node. So now we can control all the different matter, for example, pushing it, teleporting matter push, for example, we can use that. And you see where it says copy. If you go to the top here to the properties, you got this, and this is our object. It's essentially self in the code, and then you can object x, y. You can go down over to here to the objects g-force from its x and its y, g-force value of maybe 0 for the x and like 1 like that. This is how you basically program your different nodes. But also, if you right click, you can delete them or duplicate. We're going to delete this because what we want to do is actually go ahead to our frame start, and we're going to run a small little calculation using the place category, the place cat mod, which allows you to detect overlays and stuff like that, but without using physics or rigid bodies of that or anything of that nature. So let's go ahead and use the detect if it's free. The place is free, but as you can see, I can't drag it in because I can't detect whether or not it's colliding with anything yet, because it's one of those rounded beveled nodes. You need one of these different box type edges on this one. So what we can do is, instead of searching for everything, if you know what you're looking for, instead of looking for the different categories to see where it is that node's kept, is if you hover underneath or even on top of this, we have a little plus icon. So if you click it, we have a new search. So what we're going to search for is a condition. So if we grab an if and grab the if else branch. So if, and now we have a condition which is, as you can see, the same outside place as here. The same orange beveled corners. That is a perfect fit, obviously. So what we want to do is fill in the same as I showed previously in the previous example. Get the properties, grab this, as in this player object, its XY. So let's go down to grab its XY, just to fill it in, you know. And the collision group, which we don't actually have a collision group yet. So let's go to our assets, open up our floor, and in the floor over here we can go to our collision group and call this, I'm very innovative, so let's call it floor again, apply that, and we can go back to our player and here type in floor. There we go, and we have nothing to do yet. So let's go ahead and grab something to do. So for example, let's go here, type in set tint, because I said we're going to set it white on purpose so we can apply any color we want later. We're going to set the tint to be and leave it white. And if not, because what we're doing here is obviously checking every single frame at the start, if the place of this item is free, as in it's not colliding with anything else, it's liberated, it's away from everybody else, it is not colliding with any floor object. If so, set the tint to stay white. If not, let's go ahead and grab a new set tint node, and this tint is now going to be, I don't know, a pinkish, maybe like a pinkish red. I don't want to have just red. Or we can just grab a just red on that side, a red. So let's go ahead and play this now, because obviously it moves around with our mouse, and we can go ahead and there we go. It's red and now white and red and white and red and white and red and white. There we go. And I actually went to disable, but I got lost in the cat mods. I actually originally wanted to show you, if you go down to Brandon, we can hide CT.JS and we can add a custom loading screen as well. I don't like the loading, so I'm going to set this to be black, or you know, you could set it to be fully white if you wanted to. I just like a black screen, and instead of writing something, I'm just going to press space. So that's going to be our loading screen text, a blank space. So we're going to have nothing until our actual game shows up. And I actually want to change the background because I don't like this black nothingness. So let's add an asset. Let's look at the asset library. We can have a bunch of different shapes and stuff, but I want to use this. I like this sort of pattern, this brown background pattern. Let's go ahead, open it up, set it to be a tiled background, set the collision to be the origin to be the middle, and now go down to the backgrounds, add a background, and use the BG background. Yeah, let's use this drop down and set the depth to be -1, so it's behind all our current objects. And there we go. We have a little project that we've made with just our catnip nodes. There we go. Isn't that cool? And now maybe add damage whenever it touches it with a variable or something of that nature. Well, I'm not going to do too much. I'm going to end it in a second here. But what we can do, go to the properties on the top here, and we can add a new property or new variable. Now, a variable and a property is very different. Look, let's create a new variable. Let's call it damage or score or something of that nature. Score. That's great. We have a new variable called score. We don't actually, it's not appeared. Let's create a new property, call it score. Yeah, that's appeared. I don't know why it didn't appear. So, no, apparently not. We are in a nightly build, so sometimes you'll have glitches and bugs. You don't actually need to create a variable, you can just set a variable. So on start, let's create a variable by just writing it, a variable, call it, hello. Oh, we have a 0 that appears sometimes in front. That's another bug. So we have set hello, which isn't actually a variable that we've created, to be a 0, and that is actually a not a temporary variable. If you go to this search here, you can see it says it's temporary. It only exists for one event. What I wanted to show you is that if you create a new variable and then go to one of these different events, that variable isn't going to appear because it's only allowed in a very limited category that this object can use. But if you create a property, you can see we have a little box like icon. You can use that throughout this entire project from different rooms. You can use it from different objects. You can access that data, that value. So it's a much better way if you want to use something like a score system to use a property than a variable. If you want to use something very temporary, like yeah, so anything that's temporary, like a temporary boost or temporary whatever it is, I don't really have an example in mind, then you can use this variable. So that's a very important difference. But like I said, I'm not going to go much further. The video is long enough. This is just a quick introduction, or more like me also discovering catnip with you guys. This has come out a few days ago. It's really fun to play with. It's going to have a lot of changes in the future, so if you don't plan on making full games with this, but you can definitely go and enjoy this. It's going to be really powerful, really fun, and this is going to allow a lot more people to use CT.JS. I really do love visual scripting, so this is an engine that I'm definitely going to be talking about. And hey, it's been like a year since I've uploaded to this channel, so I thought now is a perfect opportunity. So I'll see you guys next time and have fun.